Okay, I believe the recording has started. So now we have logical operators and control flow. That's what we'll be doing today. Please, if at any point you cannot hear me, please unmute your mic and say something. All right. So now we have different type of logical operators. We have the AND operator, AND. The AND operator is represented with this two ampersand symbols. This is just an explanation of what happens here. Maybe I should copy. Okay, let me just continue. This is an explanation. I'll write the code later. So this returns true if both sides are true. You understand what I mean in a second. Returns true if both sides are true. So it means you need two conditions for this. You need two conditions for this, and both conditions have to be met for it to return true. Else it will return false. Else false. Else it returns false. That's what the AND operator does. AND. Okay. So for the next one, we have the OR. The OR operator simply returns true if at least one side is true. If at least one side is true, to return true. So it is represented by two pipes. Two pipes. If you do not know how to find these on your keyboard, either your phone or your laptop, please let me know. I can provide that to you easily. If you do not know how to find any of those characters, please let me know and I would inform you on how it works and how to look for them. Good. Now, next one. Okay, let me explain this. I'll just write it there. Returns true if at least one side is true. Else it is no, yeah, else it is false. So just one side has to be true. Else it returns false. Let me copy this. All right. So the third one. So I'll press Alt and Z. Alt and Z. Sorry. Alt and Z to wrap. So the next one is not. 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 Not simply flips the result of anything you do. It is represented with an exclamation mark and it flips the result, which means if the answer is true, it returns false. If it is false, it returns true. That's what the not does. So that's basically that about the operators. Now I'll just write some code on it. Let's hope we're able to finish it on time. So then we also have conditions and control flow, but we'll work on that later. So now let me say let age equal to 20. Okay, then we want to log console.log age is greater than 18. This is going to return true because age is greater than 18. Do you understand what I have done here? Is there anything that is not understood here? Okay. What is it you do not understand here? Please let me know. Unmute your mic and say something. Okay.
What did this logical operator, what did they do?
Logical operators. Logical operators simply help us to undo logic. I've not started using logical operators here at all. This is a simple arithmetical. Logical operators, they simply help us to undo logic in our code, especially parts where we need to tie one or more variables, when we need to compare one or more variables to another, when we need to check some particular things in code. That's where logical operators and control flow comes in. I would explain as we go on, you would understand more. But I have not started logical operators here. Let me explain the code here. Age equal to 20. I've said age is 20. And I'm saying console.log age is greater than 18. Now, this is a simple question you are asking JavaScript. Is age greater than 18? Everyone that can see age here is 20. Is 20 greater than 18, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And then we have true in the console. We know JavaScript uses true. Um JavaScript uses true and false for things like this. So it says true. I want to believe this part is now understood. All right. Okay. So to move to the next part about it, I want to chain it with something else. For example, using and then we can understand how and or works here now. Let me explain what I mean. If I say age is greater than 18, then I'll put the and. Remember that and is represented by two ampersand symbols. And when you say and, it will return true only if both sides are true. By both sides, we mean this. When you say and, you add another condition. This is called a condition. It is called a condition. In fact, we have not really got into conditions yet, but yeah, this is basically it. So, and age is less than 30. Now, let's evaluate both sides of the equation. Is age greater than 18? True. Is age is age less than 30? True. Which means this side is true, this side is true, which means and operator will return true. Now, if I were to change age to 17, listen, oh sorry, that's not age. If I were to change age, let me change it to 15 or so. If I were to change age to 15, it's going to say age is greater than 18. Is that true? Somebody please answer.
False.
False. This is false. And age is less than 30. This is true. But we have false and true. And remember that this operator and will only return true if both sides are true, which means one side is already false. So if I save and look at the console, it's going to say it is false. Can someone explain to me why it says false? Can anyone do that? If you don't even know, just try to explain it.
Because I think because the AND operator now, because it returns true if both sides are true. So one side is true and the other side is false. So it is definitely going to return false because both sides are not true.
Do you understand? I believe you understand very good, and I really appreciate that. Thank you very much, Henry. That's the simple explanation. One side is true, one side is false, and would not allow that. Now, if I'm to bring this down to the next line, I believe we understand how I brought it down. It's just a simple copy and paste. Okay, I'll give a space in between them, and then I'm going to use the or sign. Now, remember that all will return true if at least one side is true. That means only one side has to be true. Is age greater than 18? No. But if age less than 30, yes, it is, which means it will give us true. Is there anyone who understands what I just explained? If you do not understand, please simplify or unmute your mic, anything at all, so that I can re explain. Okay, I believe it's straightforward there. Or 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 is very simple. It just returns true if at least one side is true. It needs one side to be true. When you use and, every side, not just both side. I said both there, but we mean every side because we can use more than one condition. We can say and keep using and. Yeah, that's the way it works. When you look at lesson one, you will understand more than this. You'll be able to see more and you'll be able to ask more questions. Okay. Now I'll go to the next one you can work on, which would be okay. That's the not. I wanted to go to the condition. I'm sorry. Let's start with not. Now we have to understand how brackets work in JavaScript. Now, if I were to pick all of this, now everything here, bring it down. I want to remove everything inside of here, cut it out. Hey, sorry, I already cut it out. And then I'm going to add another bracket. You will understand why in a second. Before the bracket, let's put an exclamation mark. Can somebody read to me what an exclamation mark does? It flips the result. Abby? Yeah, that's what it does. So can someone explain what I mean by it flips the result? What do you understand by it flips the result?
It turns it the other way around now. If it's supposed to be true, to not be false. It's supposed to be false, to not be true.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate your answer, and that's correct. That's very accurate. It flips the result to the opposite. When it is true, it says false, and when it is false, it says true. So if I'm going to copy what we had here before, which is true, remember, and I'm going to paste it here. Okay, I pasted it here. Now we add true here, which means we are going to have what here if I say
False.
thank you very much. So now I just saved and we have false. Now some of you might be thinking, why do we need to flip results? Well, it is visible in cases like this. Let's say console.log um, oh, that's just console.log. Let's say 30 is not greater than, sorry, 30 is greater than 20, right? And then we just be like, okay, let's get the opposite of this. And then I just paste it there. 30 is greater than 20. We all know that. But then when I flip it, we're going to have false, because at this point we are saying, okay, just flip the results for us, please. That's simple. So I will explain more cases in which we can use this, but just have it in mind that whenever you want to flip a value to the other side and you want to save it somewhere, that's what we use. Let me explain a simple way we usually do this. We know what a to-do list app looks like, right? Like, okay, I want to add this. If this is done, I want to mark it out. That's been checked. Is this right? So now we might have something like console.log log. True. Let's say the app, the let me do it like this. Const checked equal to true. That means the item has already been checked off that you have done it. But then you're like, no, I have not checked it. I want to uncheck it. So I'm going to change that to let, because only let would allow us to change values like that. Only let will be able to allow us to change values. So I'm going to say something like let check. I don't know the previous value for checked. And I'm just going to say, okay, let check be the opposite of checked. I'm going to remove let. I'm sorry about that. When you want to reassign, you do not put let again. When you want to reassign, you do not put let again. Remember, you cannot reassign const variables. If this were const, let me change it to const, and you'll see an error. Const check equal to true. Can we see this? Assignment to constant variable. You do not reassign a constant variable. So I'm going to return to let. Good. Now, we have said check is equal to the opposite of checked at this moment, because we're assuming that we don't know the value of check. So if we console.log checked after we have flipped the value and before we have flipped the value, can someone please tell me how each of the values are going to look like? The first one is true. Sorry, I already saved. There's no need for you to answer that. I already saved. So the first one, it was true. It said true. And then the second one says false. It says false. Why? Because we flipped it before checking it again. So if the first one were false, if to say false, then true, because we are flipping the values. And flipping values like this, yes, it works for booleans a lot, because we flip it true or false. And then later on, I will explain to you how it works for numbers and strings. A basic explanation is it simply checks if they do not, it simply checks if they exist. Um, let's just get there and then I'll explain better. When you see it in practice, you understand better. So next thing we want to talk about is control and logical flow. Conditions and control flow, sorry. Conditions and control flow. Condition and control flow. Now, before I start that at all, I want to make sure that we all understand what we previously did. So just take 10, 20, 30 seconds to look at everything we have done before and try to see if you understand or you do not. We will soon be rounding up after conditions and concepts. Is everything there understood? Everything we have done is understood, Abby? So that I can move on to the next one. Okay? I do not see any objections, so I will move on. All right. So we're going to say something like age adult detector. Okay, it's going to detect if you're an adult or not. So yeah, if age is greater than or equal to 18. Now, this might be sort of confusing. This is how we write greater than or equal to. So if it is equal to, fine. If it is greater than, fine. So this is how an if statement is written. Let me write it again and then explain each part of the syntax. If as a word, if, then we put a bracket. If age is greater than or equal to, no spaces between greater than and equal to 18. Then we use curly braces. You know those brackets that have curves inside, that have curves around them. Yeah, those are curly braces. So then you write it like that. Then we can just console.log. You're an adult. Then we can say else. Else. You can also add if statement to else. But yeah, we just know that else. Anything else, you are not an adult, Abby. You are a minor. Yeah, that's what I'm going to log. Console.log. You're a minor. Can we see? You're a minor. Why? Age is 15. So if I'm going to change age now, a lot of things here are going to change. So I'm going to comment them out. If you want to comment out code, it means that the code will not run anymore. So I'll press Control and forward slash. It's going to comment it out. So I'm just going to change this to 20. And it's going to say you're an adult. Can we see that? You're an adult. That's pretty straightforward, right? If there's anyone who does not understand either the syntax or the way I wrote it, please ask your question now. If there's anyone who does not understand how I did it, please ask your question. Okay, does that mean I can move forward? All right. So going forward, let's talk about conditions. Conditions, yes. Next thing we want to talk about on conditions should be a switch statement. A switch statement. Now, using stuff like this, conditions, I'm going to explain something else easily. I'm sorry, an if statement, because this is not just the way an if statement is usually like. There are other ways in which you write if statement. And I want to tell you, it's all right if you don't if you don't know all of this at once. What matters is if you understand how the logic goes. Then with time, you will understand how to write the code, and as you go on, you get better and better at it. So what we want to check now is grade. This is a grade project. It's a very simple project. Grade determiner. grade determiner. So I'm going to say let score equal to 90. So if your score is 90, let's say your score is 90, then we're going to use um most Nigerian universities way of determining score. So for determining grade, if score if score equal to if score is greater than or equal to 70, then we console upload grade A. Now then we go else. I said before that after an else you can add an if. So we say else if the same way like this. Now I'm just going to copy what is here, something like it, because it's similar. Sorry about that. So I'm just going to paste it here. Oh, after if we don't add curly braces. Sorry. Remember we don't add curly braces. We only add those things. So we say else if score is greater than or equal to 60. Please, if you do not understand, unmute your mic and say something. Grade is B. It's pretty simple. So I'll go back and then write the code normally instead of copying it and pasting it. Else if score is greater than or equal to 60, then we console.log grade B. Then we continue else if until we get to the final one, and then we just use else and then just leave it like that. So I'm going to do another else if. So else if score is greater than or equal to, I think this one will be is it 50? Yes, 50. Is it 50? That would be C.
Someone is raising their hand.
Oh, okay. What is this you don't understand?
Victory, you were raising your hand.
Okay. Is it that you don't understand something, or was that a mistake? Okay, without an answer, I will just continue. I think it's 55. I don't remember much. Okay, so that's C. And I'm going to just paste it again and say if it's greater than or equal to 50, that would be D. D. Now remember that the first thing to do is check the first part. The first part, that's grade A. So if it does not meet A, that's when it goes ahead to check and see if it's grade B, which means at this point where we are saying the grade is D, we have already ensured it is not C, it is not B, it is not A. We have checked from the top. In this particular order, it is not A, it is not B, it is not C. And I paste again and say if it is greater than or equal to 45, this is where the person has E. E. Oh, this is where I made the mistake. This is 50, and then this is. I'm trying to remember how we do the actual grades. This is 45. 45 is D. 40 is E. E. Let me change this to E. And then instead of checking the last part, we just say else. We just console log F. So it says grade A because we know our grade is A there. Then if you show something like 20, it's going to write grade F. It is checking all of the grades that has been written there. I don't know if we understand this. Does everyone understand this, please? This is how logic works. Okay, who said this? Please, is the else if a condition? Yes, it is a condition. It is a condition. It is else if. The conditions are these things that are inside the bracket. these are the conditions. Oh, sorry. These are the conditions. These things inside the bracket, and these ones inside the block of code, is what is the code that will run if the condition is true. If the condition is true, this would run. If it does not run, the else would run. Then this else will check if this is this. Then if it is not this, it will go to the next else and check if it is that. And it will keep checking until it gets to the last place, or until it has finally gotten a hit. So if I change this to 45 now, it's going to hit here. That's grade D. I want to believe we all understand what happened here. Is only else the conclusion? No, else is not the only conclusion. You can conclude with an else if. So if I say else, if I wanted to put an if here, although it is not necessary, I'll put it there. If score is less than 40, then we'll have F. But we already know that at this point it is less than 40. So else is not the only conclusion. We can have an else if the conclusion. Else is what happens. Okay, yes. Else is what happens when another condition is not met. Yes, that's true. And that's not the only thing you use to conclude. You can conclude with an else if. So I want to believe I can continue to the next part so that we can call it a day. Okay, since there are no objections, I'll move on to the next part. All right. So now, the next thing we want to do is a switch statement. I will not explain this switch much. I will not explain switch much because we don't have time, and you can always read more on it. So a switch case is like, it's just like this one. It's just like an if statement. It's just like an if statement. So I'm going to say let day equal to Monday. I'm trying to use different instances so that you can try to use them all for each other. This thing I'm doing, you can also use this statement for it, this if statement for it, if else statement. Okay, so this switch, it will take a bracket in front of it, and what you will write at the top is the value that the switch is depending on, which is day, because the variable, sorry, we're depending on this variable day. We're depending on the variable day. So we do this day when we are here now. We said switch statement. Switch statement takes some things called cases. They take things called cases. Let me explain. We just type case. So if the value is Monday, that is if the value of day that we have put in here, this is the condition, the simple condition that we're using. If case is Monday, then let's just say we want to console.log day of the week. Let's put a semicolon there. Console.log first day of the week. First day of the week. I don't know why I'm having an error here. Oh, I'm supposed to put a colon, not a semicolon. Can you say that? A colon. Please, if you have any question, let me know. I can't see your hands at this point because I'm in a different screen. So if you have a question, unmute your mic and ask your question. Okay, so I'll continue. I'll continue by adding other cases, which will be like Friday and other things. So I will only add two cases here. And after that, you say break because you don't want it to continue to do other things. So you just want it to break after it has console.log first day of the week. Okay, so I'll go on and switch this case to, let me remove that, to Friday. And then we're going to say last day of the week. So you can add other cases if you want, but I'm going to stop here and add one other thing, which is a default. A default. A default. So a default is what will happen when it does not match every other thing here. It just falls on to that one. So I'm going to say default console.log just another regular day of the week. So now it's saying first day of the week. So if I change it to something like 4, it's going to say just another regular day of the week. So that's why you actually have to work on everything, work on Monday, Tuesday, and others. So if it does not hit the value you are looking for, it to say something like that. So I'm going to leave it at Monday though. I'm going to leave it at Monday. And it's going to say first day of the week. So this that I explained now, is it understood? Okay, I can see thumbs up. So I want to believe that's understood. Then another way to handle it is called ternary state. I know I've used quite a lot of time. So I'm going to try to make this one as short as possible. And then I'll give an assignment after that. I'll give you a simple assignment after that. But for you to be able to do the assignments, you have to watch the lesson 01. If you do not watch lesson 1, you cannot do this assignment. So the last one is called a ternary statement. Let me write what they are called there. Switch statement. This one is obviously an if statement, but I'll write it there. If statement. I'm not going to write the statement in front of you to figure it out. So I'm going to write down ternary statement. So ternary is much more like an if statement. So this is how we do it. Now, remember here now, we're saying if this is this, console log this, if this is this, console log this, everywhere here. Now, there's an easier way to do it actually. Now, what I mean is, you can simply say, if, you can simply say, you can simply save the, sorry, you can simply save the value inside of a, let me double this. You can simply save the value inside of a variable, and then so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of this console log and then do something else instead. So I'm going to select everything inside of the statements. I'm going to say const, oh sorry, no, I'm going to say grade equal to, so then at the end we want to console.log grade. Continue. Please let me know if you can see my screen back up. Okay, so now I'm assigning. Okay, my screen is now back up. I think it's back up now. So I'm assigning grade without, I'm reassigning grade without assigning it in the first place. So I'm going to say let's grade. So here now, grade is grade has a value called undefined. The value is just nothing, undefined. So now, inside of everything here, it will be reassigned to one particular value. So this is where we'll console.log and change the value. And where we'll console.log grade, sorry. So if we check our console now, it says grade D because that's the grade up. So if I remove this now, we can see two grade D. I don't want us to see both. I want us to see only one. Can we see grade D? Now, I know this might be a bit confusing. So is there someone who does not understand a particular part so that I can re-explain? Okay, good. There is this at the top. Let grade. This is an assignment. This is just saying, okay, grade is an empty value at this point. Is that understood? Okay. Now, here now, we are using this if statement to reassign grade. That means if grade is greater than 70, we'll have a. If grade is greater than 60, that means at this point it's no longer greater than 70. Maybe it's just 60 something, maybe 69, it's not up to 70. We'll have grade as B and so on until it gets to F. And this is grade at the top. Whereas this is score, sorry. We're using score, not grade. Score is 45, which means score is here exactly. That's the grade will be D. So we are reassigning to one particular one. It will only pick one out of everything here. It will go through everything here and only pick one. If I go back to it now and change it to 60, it's going to give us B. Can we see? So is it understood? Okay. Now, please, should I go on and talk about ternary for about 5 minutes, or should we stop now? Because I know it has been a very long session for us. Please let me know. Please let me know. Should I talk about ternary statements now?
Please, I think it would be best if we stop it now so we can continue another time. You know, we still have lesson one to go through and this as well.
Okay, okay. So I will send in the assignment to the Discord tonight. I'll send it in. And this is a good time to ask any question at all if you want to. If you want me to go through the files, like scroll through it, I'll do that. So is there anything you do not understand here? Let me know now. All right. I believe there are no questions since we have not heard anyone ask any question. So it seems everyone understands. So if you do not understand, there's no problem. You can always ask. So if you watch lesson one, you would be able to do the assignment. So I don't know whether I should send in the assignment early or I should wait till you watch lesson one. I don't know. But I'll send in the assignment. I'll make sure I do. So the assignment is going to be quite simple. Maybe 2 or 3. I don't know. But it's going to be really simple. It's going to be mini projects like this adult detector right here. So Nelson, please, you can take over. I don't think there's anything I want to share anymore. Let me stop the recording now.